Hi, welcome to Key Questions with Key Staffers. My name is Jim Adderhold. I'm the Vice Mayor for the town of Fort Myers Beach. And this is a show where we find key subject matter experts to ask them really in-depth questions, particularly as it relates to post-Ian recovery. We have a special guest today, Allison Geeson. Allison, help me with your title again. You wear so many hats.
Yeah, I'm the Director of Culture, Parks, and Recreation for the town of Fort Myers Beach.
Wonderful. And Allison oversees the Mound House, Newton Park, Bay Oaks, the pool, has a whole litany of responsibilities. And we're going to talk today about the Mound House and Newton Park and the pool and Bay Oaks. But we're going to take a little break, and we're going to do a little bit of a panoramic view of the Mound House. We're also going to visit the gift shop. But before we do that, I just want to let folks know that we really encourage people to share this video and this link with their friends and neighbors on Facebook. Our friends at Beach Talk Radio have offered to play it before their regular scheduled programming on Friday and Saturday. And we ask our friends at the Observer and the News Press and the local TV stations to link to this, particularly if it's germane to a story that they're working on. Abraham Lincoln said, let the people know the facts and the country will be saved. And this is our small attempt to try to do that here at the town of Fort Myers Beach. So we're just going to take a brief pause, and then we're going to do a nice panorama view of Newton Park and have Allison talk a little bit about what you're going to see. So I said Newton Park, I meant Mound House. We're going to do a nice panoramic view of Mound House here. And we obviously have this beautiful strangler fig right behind us, Allison, is that correct?
Yes.
And then we have the Mound House obviously right behind here for folks who have not been here before. Talk a little bit about this building, and then we're going to slowly kind of take a panoramic view of the landscape here, Allison.
Starting with the strangler fig, so this tree is well over 120 years old and a landmark here on Fort Myers Beach. We also have the grounds, our beautiful observation pier that's here. People can fish. Our grounds are open 7 days a week now, and they're open from 7 to 4:30. Monday through Saturday, and Sunday 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
So people can come out and enjoy the beautiful landscape. We have all native plants here, and it's a wonderful way to enjoy and relax on Fort Myers Beach. We are also puppy friendly, so bring your best friend with you, and I hope that people come out and enjoy the beautiful landscape and tranquility of the Mound House.
And Allison, that's no charge at this point, is that correct?
Correct. The grounds have always been free, thanks to the funding for the Tourism Development Council and the Visitor Center Bureau. We get funds to be able to maintain the landscape, and also we have a kayak launch that is free for people to use. However, I do caution them to check the hazard water statements to make sure that they are safe where they paddle. And so we really hope that people come out and fish and just enjoy. It's a great place for a picnic. Just sit, listen to the birds, and relax.
Get a sense of normalcy in otherwise a lot of destruction around us. You don't see a lot of impacts of Ian at this point. Obviously, it looks like the roof has got some challenges. There's some internal issues, but you just out here, it almost looks like, I don't want to use the word normal because nothing's normal anymore, but it's quite beautiful and quite pristine. Is that fair?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. So Allison and I are going to just walk over to the gift shop because the gift shop is actually open right now. And so when you come to the grounds, by the way, this observation pier, a lot of people fishing out there. It's a beautiful fishing pier, particularly with the county's pier currently disabled, for lack of a better term. So people can come out here and fish, and it's a beautiful area. And so, but the gift shop is open. So when you come out to the grounds to enjoy the grounds, you can utilize the gift shop. And you already told us the gift shop hours.
Well, the hours for the museum store are Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 4.
Okay, very good. And let's walk on over there, and people get a little flavor of that, and we'll let our cameraman follow us for a second. Okay, we're just going to walk quickly over to the museum store, is what it's called. And as we walk, Allison, how did there's a lot of beautiful vegetation along here. How did a lot of that fare with Hurricane Ian?
So because we're committed to the native landscaping of the area, our native landscaping is really resilient and has done so well. Our mangroves really protected the areas, deemed what they are to do.
I see some wildlife here. What do we have here?
Yes, we have some ibis.
These are our
that
ibis?
are here enjoying, and then you can see all the beautiful dune sunflowers and all the native plants that have propagated out. So we're very excited to be able to maintain that beautiful native landscape for our habitat.
Excellent. And again, the museum store is the only thing currently open right now.
That is correct,
We
other
just
than
lost
the grounds.
our cameraman. You go on in, I'll hold the door for you.
We're bringing the camera in.
If you guys want to be introduced, we'd be happy to have you on camera.
So this
The
is the
staff
museum
quickly
store,
exited
yes.
the staff just for the store for the record, yeah. Go ahead, Allison.
So the museum store is something that we were able to reopen. We pride ourselves in a lot of the local history and environmental history. We do carry one of the unique item that is a fundraiser for the Friends of the Mound House, which is a way people can support the Friends by buying this unique history on the Mound House. There's a very well-written book by one of our wonderful volunteers, Dr. McCowan, so that was a wonderful
And relatively
piece.
recently done.
Yes,
yeah,
actually
it's a beautiful
it
book.
is.
Yeah.
It is. So we pride ourselves in environmentally sustainable materials as well as things that really support our mission statement.
Just kind of walk around here, Allison, give people an idea of what kind of things are available if they wanted to come and shop.
So one of my favorite things is the Bees Wrap, which is a sustainable repackaging made out of natural materials. I also have a favorite of natural honey, which is from North Fort Myers, as well as a local jam that we have. So we have a lot of unique things people can come and find, as well as a really wonderful resource of libraries on local history. And so we have all kinds of wonderful things that you can do in order to learn more about the environmental and the cultural history of the island. And then just a lot of things that have to do with local artists that support the Calusa and their cultural and all of their different things that they had that they know were a part of their culture and their ceremony. So we have a lot of really unique items, and then we pride ourselves on really unique items for education, for families to have fun and to be able to learn together. A lot of wonderful resources for the families and the kids, and we support the STEM education and all the other things. So really try to have something for everybody here and support the local artisans of Florida as much as we can.
And Allison, you said that the Mound House itself is closed because the floors are being worked on, is that right?
It is. So right now we are going through the process of repairing the flooring, which was a little bit damaged, but nothing major. So our
Jake, if you
historic
want to go in and
preservation.
see if you can get a shot of the floors just to give people a flavor of that.
So this is something that they have recently been oiled and repaired, and I think they're just beautiful, and we look forward to welcoming our visitors and our residents back very, very soon. So we hope to be able to have a date here the next couple of weeks on when we'll be reopening. But the team of historic preservationists are here currently, and they're to finish up this week.
And Allison, you said the downstairs area is closed as well for sensitivity purposes. They're working on some issues.
They are.
Yeah.
So we do have the underground museum closed to anybody but very few key staff. We will have an update on that. We're working closely with the Seminole Tribe of Florida and also University of Florida and the Florida Public Archaeology Network, University of Georgia, and others in order to get that stabilized so we can welcome our visitors and residents back in.
Very good, thanks. We'll be back in just a second with a whole crew of folks to do some further discussion. Very good. We actually have a couple of additional special guests aside from Allison. Allison, do you want to introduce our guests today, or do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Why don't you start?
All right, I'm Adam Knight. I'm the education coordinator here at the Mound House.
Very good.
And I'm Jeff Hauge, the campus manager at Bay Oaks Recreational Campus.
Excellent. Happy to have you here. Adam, since we're having kind of starting at the foundation here, can you give I know it's difficult because it's a lot of years, but if you could give a brief history of the land here on this island that now contains the Mound House, a little bit of that history and kind of how we got to where we are today. And I'll ask Allison how the Mound House itself became part of the town, but if you could lead us up to that point, that would be great.
Yeah, here at the Mound House, we preserve, share, and interpret 2,000 years of cultural and environmental history of Fort Myers Beach in Southwest Florida. So that includes primarily the 3 different cultures that call this mound, this site, home. First starting with the Calusa, who started building this mound gradually, year after year, generation after generation, for about nearly 1,000 years. Then it was abandoned around the 1200s. Then in the 1700s, through the 1800s, this was actually a prominent fishing village for U.S. Latinos, mostly from Cuba. Then after the U.S. Civil War, several Anglo-American families, like the Case family, will come and start homesteading this island, and the homes that they will build, including the one behind us, will eventually take its current form to its 1921 appearance, being the Mound House, which today houses our museum.
Adam, the concept of it's why it's called the Mound House. This fact that we're on a mound. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So this mound that we're sitting on, it's just under 3 acres as a site, but the mound itself, archaeologists believe, was actually much larger as an archaeological site, approaching close to 14 acres in area. Basically, this whole area, this neighborhood that surrounds the Mound House today, right along Estero Bay in the Matanzas Pass, this was a prominent village for the Calusa, a satellite village for Mound Key, what's believed to be the capital city for the Calusa, who ruled over much of what is today Southwest Florida, roughly Charlotte County, Lee County, Collier County, and towards Lake Okeechobee, the Everglades. So you could think of this village being almost like a suburb of the large city that was Mound Key, the capital for the Calusa.
But how did it become a mound in and of itself? Is there some history behind that as well?
Yeah, so the mound, there's a big misconception with mounds. What you're seeing is really a piece of infrastructure, a piece of indigenous engineering. It's not a landfill or a trash pile of shells. This mound specifically is a domestic mound. It was purposely and knowingly constructed by the Calusa as a piece of infrastructure, a foundation for the village to be elevated from the dangers of shifting climatic patterns, especially in terms of hurricanes from storm surge. So literally elevating the village layer by layer. So they basically add on the mound as needed. They would live on that mound. Then after maybe a few years, few generations, it varies on the needs of the community, they would build up more. So just like today, people build bridges and infrastructure to protect themselves, their friends, their families, and their community members, the Calusa in the same way did the same thing. And this is really a testament to that continuous human engineering and living alongside our ecosystem here in Southwest Florida.
In each of those layers, as they built those layers, what does that consist of primarily?
Primarily shells. So we like to call the Calusa ancient recyclers. So they would repurpose the primarily marine resources, so oysters, clams, like quahogs, and they would repurpose those shells in a way that would be a building medium. So here in Southwest Florida, we really don't have that much of a building medium, not a large resources of stone to quarry. So shells would be really the next best resource other than bone and wood in terms of a building material. So in terms of something that, as you can see, stays around a long time, it would be shell. So sometimes you might even hear the Calusa called the shell people for the use of shells as a building medium in their mounds for their infrastructure, but also in their tools.
Wow. So I learned something as we were talking earlier this morning. I always thought this was the highest point of the island, but it sounds like we have one place that's a little higher on Fort Myers Beach. Is that true?
Yes, we do have a competitor, Bowditch Point, on the north end of the island. That was built up during the 20th century, and I think it's just over 20 feet in height. Our site is roughly 13 feet in elevation, but we do have them beat in age by about 2,000 years.
So this history that we just talked about, did it help actually preserve this building after Hurricane Ian?
For sure. This mound is really why the archaeological and historical resources, including the historic house behind us, which houses the museum today, was preserved with its many artifacts and exhibits. This mound, just like the Calusa would use it for, helped elevate the house, helped elevate this property from the destructive storm surge that affected much of the island in Southwest Florida.
That's great. And Allison, help us to take the next step in terms of where we are today, how this home became preserved and part of the town and became the institution that it is today in a thumbnail sketch.
So this is one of my favorite stories because the town was incorporated in 1995, and in 2000 they actually purchased this property. And so from a unique perspective of a town that was just incorporated, and for them to take on this wonderful project really tells you something about the resiliency of the town, even back then and especially now. So it's a wonderful story I like to share because in 2000 they purchased it, and then it opened as a museum experience in 2014. So they did about a decade of archaeology in order to get the information that we have and that we share, and just Adam has discussed about the Calusa for this specific site in order for us to develop the exhibits. And so we are very proud to be a part of this site. And during the storm, no major structural damages at all. The materials that were used are not subjected to a lot of the things that cause problems today. We have wonderful native hardwoods, the heart of pine, and we have this beautiful brick that you see that was made out of Portland cement and crushed shell, handmade by William Case himself, who built the structure. So we have a lot of wonderful materials.
He made his own cement?
He made his own bricks out of Portland
out of
cement
okay.
and crushed shell for the aggregate for that. So it was really, really wonderful to be able to help preserve this for future generations, and it has been around a long time. And I'm excited to be able to be a part of that effort.
For somebody who's not had the opportunity to visit the Mound House and the grounds, give them a flavor of what they'd see once it becomes open again. What should they anticipate if they come visit the Mound House?
Well, we do have some new programs that we're going to be doing. I do encourage people to come out. I think the one thing that people are so surprised about is how beautiful it is. And the other thing is the unique history that we have. And Adam, touched a little bit about the history, but we have a large eclectic history through time, starting with the Calusa. And many people would be surprised at the history that we have right here on our island. And we really enjoy and share that as interpretive programs that the staff share. So we really pride ourselves in having something for everybody. And
it's an entity called Friends of the Mound House as well, where people can get more involved, where you have lectures, there's kayak tours, there's all kinds of programming. You want to just touch on that for a minute?
I do. I want Adam to talk about some of the up and coming programs that we have, including the March 8th Friends of Mound House presentation. Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually tonight, February 28th, so it might be a little late by the time people see this, but tonight at 6 p.m. We're having a speaker from the Florida Public Archaeology Network, Natalie de la Torre Salas. She's speaking about a very relevant topic to our members, volunteers, and community members virtually on Zoom. She's speaking on heritage resilience during natural disasters, especially with her work in Puerto Rico and here in Florida relating to hurricanes. How do sites survive and rebuild after a hurricane or other natural disaster? March 8th, as Allison said, is the Friends of the Mound House annual meeting. That starts at 4:30 p.m. and runs until 6:30. Not just a meeting for the Friends, but also a great lineup of 3 archaeologists who have done work on Mound Key State Archaeological Park, Pineland, which is the north end of Pine Island, and most recently their archaeological conservation only a week before the hurricane, which helped preserve untold priceless archaeological information and data here specifically at this site. So that will be March 8th. That'll be the Friends of the Mound House meeting, but it's open to the public. You don't have to stay for the Friends meeting. So if you want to learn something about more of that local history and come see this beautiful, really, oasis here on the island at the Mound House, we're very excited to welcome everyone for our first public program in 6 months.
Excellent. Very good. Now, Jeff, you oversee the Bay Oaks facility. I mean, that's part of Allison's empire, if you will, but that's your direct responsibility, and obviously you've been helping elsewhere since the storm. Tell us a little bit about Bay Oaks. It's been in the news a lot lately because we've been in real serious conversations with Lee County School District to make sure that the Bay Oaks facility is available this fall for after-school programs. Talk a little bit about how things are going at Bay Oaks and talk a little bit about those after-school programs and how they work and what your experience has been thus far.
Yeah, so Bay Oaks has been a really good partner with the schools. We have an interlocal agreement that the kids can come over and use our facility throughout the year. They come over, I think it was on Wednesdays. They came over and used the gym for the facility since they don't have an actual gymnasium.
So even during the school day?
During the school year, yes, they also use it. And then what we do is, as a Bay Oaks staff, we go over and get those kids and bring them to Bay Oaks for an after-school program. So really, the parents don't have to worry about transportation. They don't have to take the bus to another daycare. We are their spot for after school. And it's not just a recreation, they don't just play games. It's really an enrichment program. So we incorporate, we help them with their homework. We do clubs like Lego Club, Book Club. Within that interlocal agreement, we decided to do all that with the kids. We run some basketball things and recreation, but really it's a well-rounded program with the arts, with recreation, with leagues and camps and things like that with our kids. So really, and they really come and they get a full experience when they come to Bay Oaks.
I have to tell you, I've spent a lot of time with the parents this last month as part of this ad hoc committee to negotiate with the school district, and the reviews that the Bay Oaks facility gets from the parents is spectacular, but because the kids love it, and the parents clearly see that, and it's a key piece of our puzzle. So one of the things that we're trying to convey to the Lee County School District is that we have the potential for a lot of workers to send their kids to school. They may not live on the island, but they work on the island. And then after school program's a key part of that. Would you talk a little bit about the hours and how it would help somebody who's working on our island but doesn't necessarily live on our island?
Yeah, absolutely. So our hours are typically when they get out of school to
And that's like 2:15.
2:15.
Right?
So it is very early for a working family or working parents. So we go to about 2:15. We go get them, bring them back, and they can stay until 6 o'clock. They also get a snack involved in that, so they're not just hungry after school, because we know that the kids love food, and that helps them learn when they
Sure.
have some food in their belly. But yeah, it really does help out these parents that are working, or the new people coming in. We have plenty of space at Bay Oaks, which is also a big key. I mean, we have a lot of room for all these kids. We did get a good percentage of the school pre-hurricane. We had a good percentage of the kids that go to Beach Elementary that would come to our program. And just to kind of about our program, it's all about our staffing too. The kids love to see our staff. They know them. They've grown up with them. A lot of them have been there for a long time, and I'm seeing these kids really grow. And we're looking forward to working with the kids again. We really miss them.
That's wonderful. I also get asked a lot of questions about the swimming pool. I know things are kind of in transition, but just a little update on the swimming pool.
Yeah, so we're kind of at the very kind of beginning stages still. I know it's been about 5 months, but we have it cleaned out, so it's drained and acid washed, which is how they try to get it a little more white. And then we did the deck clean out and disinfectant of all our whole facility. So all of the debris inside the building or inside the facility is picked up. The trees, we had some kayaks, some household material. All that has been taken care of. So we're just working on the next steps of getting electricity there and then starting to build off that.
Let's start with you. Talk a little bit about what you've been doing. Obviously, everybody's world changed post-Ian. Your responsibilities sort of changed. Talk a little bit about what you've been doing post-Ian.
Yeah, so I've had a couple different hats since post-Ian. Right away, we did some food and water donation giveaways to our residents. So we set up, it just started with some pop-up tents, turned into the community resource centers, which were the big tents that we did donations and had a lot of good community partners that helped our community. And so our staff
And those were the ones like at Santini Plaza, and you had one at Beach Baptist.
Yep. So we had those, and we staffed those. So we were in charge of handing out the donations and the food and the water and coordinating all that. I mean, we had a very good response from the community with giving out mattresses and generators and all sorts of things. So yeah, it was a much different job than what I had done before, but it was all about helping the community. So that's basically what all of our jobs are, is engaging in the community and helping them out wherever they need it, whether it's a recreation program, after school program, or in these disaster situations.
It's wonderful. Adam, how about you? What have you been doing post-Ian?
Oh, actually, like everyone else, wearing many hats. And Jeff said I was one of those people staffed at those community resource centers. I mean, we started only a month after the storm with these little pop-up tents. So not the large tents that you might see at Beach Baptist or previously the one at Santini Plaza. I mean, the little ones that you'd have at like a soccer game for shade, just like 2 people, water, MREs, providing information, much needed resources. There is no internet or phone for people to get a hold of, what's next? How do I get power? How do I get electric? And really connecting them to the town, which was pretty much online at that point, connecting them with answering questions from permitting, for utilities, connecting them with resources, helping people find contractors, helping residents who weren't familiar with the area or had language difficulties, helping them connect to contractors and connecting them to those resources so they can get their lives back to normal.
And when Adam says MREs, he's talking about meals ready to eat.
Yes.
And I'm sure you long for those, right? Did you have a particular flavor that you liked? Or?
The pasta fagioli was pretty good. They have actually really good flavors now.
Excellent.
So it's more updated. It's not a giant ration pack from like.
Not spam. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not spam.
Okay.
It's pretty good flavors. Yeah.
Allison, what's your world been like post the end?
Well, it was all a part of that. So it was mainly organizing those CRCs, the community resource centers, and then Jeff and Adam and others ran them. So I was kind of the one on the outside trying to organize and making sure that everybody had that, working with the emergency management teams that we had in to help open one at Times Square, and just overseeing that, as well as the 4 properties that we're responsible for rebuilding and repairing. We focused a lot on Mound House because it was in the best shape, and also as a historic resource, it is just so important that the very first few days are done in a specific way in order to preserve those resources that are really you're unable to replace. So it was a lot of different things all at once, and the team just did a fantastic job in helping serve the community and also at the same time trying to preserve the historical resource and move projects forward.
And because this is a historic landmark, it requires certain types of firms that are specialized to do the renovation and the remediation. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So, and it is imperative that it is done immediately in order for those additional repairs, like the shrink wrapping of the roof. Structurally, there was not a lot done, but if you don't have a good roof, then you're going to have a lot of issues before. And the roof sustained some damage down to the plywood, and that is never a good thing to have that exposed. So having the team to be able to come in and take care of that and stabilize the structure was really important, and I'm so thankful that that happened, because now we are able to move forward and faster and to be able to have less issue. Also, the wonderful things about historic structures is the native materials that they're made out of. And they don't really always require air conditioning. Actually, we opened up the house for a continual amount of time, and the memory of the materials things will settle down and go back into place, and that's what happened. It's really remarkable to be able to experience that in a historic structure in a climate like we have. So it's very exciting to be able to have the team here, and also to be able to be given an opening date for when we're going to be reopening.
That's wonderful. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Newton Park. It's our little park that's right across from the Publix here on the island, and we lost our structure there. Just give a thumbnail sketch for people who don't know what the structure was on Newton Park that was lost. That's some interesting history to it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I think it'd be interesting for people to hear what we lost there at Newton Park.
Yeah, so we lost Seven Seas Cottage, and that was Ellie and Jim Newton's house that they had there. It was a 1950s cottage, really great architecture. The inside was beautiful, out of cypress and heart of pine. We did lose that little historical cottage, and we look forward to being able to plan what's next. Right now, it is a much needed site for the sand debris and also the dune. There's certain emergency projects for the shoreline that are much needed that we are utilizing the space for, but we look forward to the future of what's going to be there next.
It's just in a nutshell, Mr. Newton had an interesting history because he had some pretty famous friends, correct?
So I'm just going to plug the museum store. If you don't know about Jimmy Newton, you can come and get on Uncommon Friends. So his friends, he had a lot of different famous people actually come to the cottage, and also Edison, Ford, and Firestone, and the book talking about, and many other people that you might be surprised about. So Jimmy and Ellie Newton were definitely part of the history of Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach, and that was their little cottage, their 1950s cottage. But he wrote a really wonderful book called Uncommon Friends about his time and the people that he knew, and it's titled Uncommon
And that's
Friends.
part of your history, right? Isn't that where you came from?
Yes, Edison. Actually, Adam and I both came from the Edison and Ford Winter States.
What did you do for the Edison Museum?
I was a chief curator there, and I helped. The main project that I was working on at the time was restoring Edison's Botanical Laboratory and helping to achieve the National Chemical Landmark status in order for the estates to be able to acquire national landmark status. So that was something that I got to work on.
And Adam, what was your role at the museum, at the Edison Museum?
I was a lead site historian. So my primary role was engaging with guests, facilitating programs, field trips, and one thing I was really proud of in terms of whenever the pandemic began, I was in charge of launching the museum's digital initiatives, like their online programs, as well as really revising and expanding the script of the estate's history to include people like the servants employed by the Edisons, as well as most particularly Mrs. Mina Edison, who did a lot more than people give her credit for in this area.
Very good. Jeff, what did you do before you came to the service of the town of Fort Myers Beach?
I now work at Edison Ford. I've been involved in recreation my whole career. So I worked for the Boys and Girls Club for actually 17 years. Prior.
Down here in Florida?
No, in Minnesota.
Where in Minnesota?
Around the Minneapolis area. St. Cloud is actually where I live.
I hear a little of the Minnesota.
Yeah.
I grew up in Wisconsin, so yeah.
So my background has always been running facilities, recreation, running leagues. I've done a lot of coaching, all those kind of things throughout my 20-year.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your service to our town. Thank you all for watching. And again, if you find the content helpful and interesting, please share it on your Facebook page. Please feel free to share it with others. And we're so thankful that you could be with us today. This is a really good background on the Mound House, Bay Oaks, Newton Park, and just kind of where things are. And we're so thankful for the progress that the island is making, and we're thankful that you could be with us. God bless. Take care.